This video is brought to you by GeForce Now, powered by Cloud GG. They've just launched an all-new Ultra tier, giving you access to RTX 3080 servers, 4K 60fps streaming, support for ultra-wide monitors, and much more. It coincides with Game Pass arriving on GeForce Now, meaning you can play stuff like Forza Motorsport on there without needing an Xbox or a high-end PC. Click the link below to try it for free, or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, we are here. We are at the zenith of Broketober, a month that in any other year would empty our wallets, but in 2023 it looks like it's going to push us into some serious debt. We already had AC Mirage, Lords of the Fallen, and Forza Motorsport. This week we've got Hot Wheels 2, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, City Skyline 2, the Metal Gear Solid Remaster Collection, and of course, Just Dance 2024. I know we're all excited about that one. Hard to imagine that we've still got to leave room for Alan Wake and Ghost Runner 2 next week. I, for one, have been busy with one or more of those titles. I can't talk about some of them yet, but I can tell you that Spider-Man 2 is awesome, and you're going to love it. More on that later in the episode. For now, though, we should probably get stuck into the news because there's a bunch of it. Not as crazy as other weeks, but it does contain one story which I am very, very glad to report is now done, so I'll never have to report on it ever again. That is right, I'm talking about Microsoft completing its acquisition of Activision Blizzard King, one of the largest acquisitions in corporate history, and a deal so drawn out that it feels like we've been talking about it for years. To be fair though, we almost have been, as news of the acquisition first broke in January of last year, the first week I got back from my holiday break, so that was a rare instance where the timing was actually in my favor. Since then, Phil Spencer and Microsoft have been fighting tooth and nail to get this deal over the line. The chief antagonist was Jim Ryan, the soon-to-be retired boss man of Sony. In the concluding arc of his career, Ryan brought the fight to Xbox relentlessly, lobbying all around the world against the deal, arguing that it would hurt not only consumers, but the broader market. Much of his efforts hinged on the centrality of Call of Duty, a franchise so massive and so entrenched that Sony are of a view that if you gave another studio an unlimited time frame and unlimited budget, they still couldn't make a better video game. Not sure if your average COD player would agree with that one, but anyway. Phil Spencer would argue repeatedly that Microsoft had no intention of making Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive, going so far as to sign a pledge to that effect, an offer rebuffed by Sony as they made clear that COD was just a bargaining chip in a broader campaign to block the deal. While most regulatory bodies around the world were happy to wave the deal through, Jim Ryan did find a sympathetic audience in both the UK CMA and the US's FTC, both of which went to great lengths to block this deal. The FTC case was pretty shaky, to the point where the presiding judge was clearly unimpressed with how the FTC argued their case. The UK's CMA didn't need a court hearing to rule on the matter though. They determined internally that the deal would harm the emerging cloud gaming market, given Microsoft's already entrenched position owing to its Azure infrastructure. As a result, Microsoft struck an unlikely partnership with Ubisoft, whereby Ubisoft would distribute Activision games through the cloud in the UK, disarming the CMA's key objection and clearing the way for their assent. Which brings us to this week, when Microsoft finally caught the car, announcing that they had completed their acquisition of Activision Blizzard King for nearly $69 billion. Phil Spencer was, of course, pretty chuffed. He tweeted out on the old tweeter, quote, "Today is a good day to play. We officially welcome Activision Blizzard King to Team Xbox. Together we'll create stories and experiences that bring players together in a culture empowering everyone to do their best work and celebrate diverse perspectives," end quote. It's pretty hype because, love them or hate them, Activision Blizzard absolutely has some of gaming's most iconic IPs, and now those IPs belong to Microsoft. The immediate question then becomes, when are we going to be able to get all this stuff for a few bucks a month on Game Pass? Because as fun as Call of Duty is, sometimes I ain't paying $70 for that shit ever again. Activision Blizzard could clearly sense our anticipation, so they issued a statement to calm us down, saying, quote, "While we do not have plans to put Modern Warfare 3 or Diablo 4 into Game Pass this year, once the deal closes, we expect to start working with Xbox to bring our titles to more players around the world, and we anticipate that we would begin adding games into Game Pass sometime in the course of next year," end quote. While I think we're all okay to wait a bit longer for that, one thing that can't come soon enough is the ejection of Bobby Kotick, the current but soon-to-be former CEO of Activision Blizzard, who was one of the chief architects of this microtransaction-laden era and who oversaw a culture of crunch, hostility, bullying, and sexual harassment at both Activision and Blizzard. Reports suggested that Bobby Kotick knew much of what was going on beneath him but did little to stop it, going so far as to intervene in certain cases to protect people accused of sexual harassment. When Blizzard's reckoning came, Kotick made a sacrificial lamb of Blizzard president J. Allen Brack, but took absolutely no responsibility himself other than a meaningless pay cut that would of course be made up with interest down the line. That down the line is here today, as Kotick's exit from the company is likely to trigger a number of clauses in his contract, that could see him take home as much as $375 million when his pass is confiscated and he is escorted from the building. Microsoft has said that Kotick will stay on in the CEO role until the end of the year, at which point in time someone else will take over the reins and begin the daunting task of revitalizing key franchises, improving workplace culture, and merging at least some operations with Microsoft. And look, I'm just putting it out there, but I know one CEO who I think would be perfect for the job, and he just became available. Just a suggestion, have a think about it. So that is finally that. After 18 months of talking about this fucking acquisition, it's finally done. Phil got what he wanted, Jim retired, Bobby Kotick got even more obscenely wealthy, and what do we get? Diablo 4 and Candy Crush on Game Pass. That's something, I guess. Don't expect the acquisition wars to end there, mind you. Remember how a few weeks ago I was like this? I mean, Disney has essentially no meaningful footprint in gaming at this point. You mean to tell me they aren't going to turn around at some point and just, I don't know, buy Ubisoft or something? That was 2 weeks ago, and wouldn't you know it, this week Bloomberg are reporting that Disney's senior leadership are pressuring CEO Bob Iger to move into gaming in a big way. Bloomberg say that the ailing fortunes of Disney has prompted some head honchos to propose a bold transformation from gaming licensee to gaming giant. Apparently EA is being considered as an acquisition target, which does track with some rumors doing the rounds some years ago. Ubisoft's name is also in the mix, but I will absolutely eat my hat and go back for seconds if that happens. Ubisoft is laden with staff, struggling to turn out AAA hits, and has had almost no success in the mobile space. There's a reason they've been looking for a buyer for a very long time, and I don't think Disney are going to end up being the groom for whoever puts a ring on Ubisoft. Apparently Iger is non-committal on the idea of a move to gaming, and you know what? I think that's smart. Disney has absolutely no idea what they are doing when it comes to video games, so for them to just scoop up a massive publisher without working up to it first, that can only end in disaster for everyone. Except maybe Andy Wilson, who'll get to buy his 15th yacht with the sale proceeds. Still, I do expect that Disney will do something in the gaming space in the near term, so do watch this space. Speaking of EA, here's a good news story I would never have expected. Battlefield 2042 is back. Like, properly back. I'm sure you remember just how bad Battlefield 2042 was at launch. It was among the buggiest Battlefield releases ever, and that is saying something, let me tell you. Very skint on content like maps and weapons, and it tossed out the old class system in favor of a flavor of the month specialist thing, many of whom had cringy dialogue emotes that really didn't feel at home in the Battlefield franchise. Since then, EA DICE have been hard at work on the title, fixing it, expanding its content, bringing classes back, sort of. It culminated recently in a steep discount on Steam, where you can currently get the title for 84% off. That's led to a very big resurgence in the player base, where once this game was struggling to crack a few thousand people on its best day, it just surpassed 103,000 concurrent players over the weekend. That makes it one of the most played games on Steam right now, and that's just Steam. It doesn't count all the people who play on EA's terrible launcher or consoles. It's not perfect, as the title is still sitting at a mixed 56% on Steam, owing to serious connectivity issues that are stopping a lot of people from playing, but still, 100,000 concurrent players are managing to get in and they're sticking around. To be honest, it's kind of nice to see Battlefield back. COD is, it's COD, but Battlefield has a really cool community, and they really live for this shit, so it's nice to see the franchise they love humming back to life. Now, if EA could just turn their attention to Titanfall next, that'll be great. Thank you very much. Speaking of legacy shooters, word on the street is that 343 are already hard at work on the next Halo campaign. This report comes from a publication by the name of Season Gaming. They claim to have a source saying that there's a team working at 343 on the next single-player Halo outing, and in line with previous reporting, this next Halo entry will be in Unreal Engine 5. If it is true, it shouldn't be totally shocking. I mean, it's Halo. It's not like Microsoft aren't going to keep going back to that one so long as there's life left in it, or even if there's not. The source did say that we should absolutely not expect to hear anything about this for at least a few years, so be sure to put a pin in that excitement and come back to it circa 2025 or beyond. Speaking of Xbox, Remedy Entertainment are hard at work on Alan Wake 2, and apparently they aren't having a great time with the Xbox Series S. Remedy's communication director Thomas Pua was very candid on the matter when he was asked about it on a recent IGN podcast. He gave a lengthy explanation for why Series S won't offer a 60 FPS mode, saying that the GPU and memory constraints of the Series S are a real bottleneck, more so than you experience on PCs, and as such sacrifices have to be made. It mirrors commentary from other developers on the challenges of developing for the Series S, including Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian, who famously delayed Baldur's Gate 3's release on the Xbox due to their inability to get split-screen co-op running on Series S, before striking a deal with Phil Spencer to be the first game to ship to Xbox Series consoles without full feature parity, the split-screen co-op feature being removed on Series S. Kind of crazy to think that the next console generation will start in 2028, that is according to Microsoft's own leaked documents. and developers are going to be hamstrung by the Series S for another 4 years. Like, I don't know, man. I think Microsoft maybe need to rethink their strategy or something. I know the Series S is popular, don't get me wrong, but yeah, 4 years is a long time. By the way, Remedy also confirmed that there are no plans for a physical version of Alan Wake 2. They said it was a matter between them and their publisher, Epic Games. I'm gonna guess it's Epic's call here, so Epic, I have a suggestion. I hear you guys are bleeding cash and you need to cut costs. I have a surefire way to make a boatload of money. You ready? Release a physical version of Alan Wake 2, and also release it on Steam. There you go. I just doubled the sales of Alan Wake 2. You are welcome, Tim Sweeney. Send me a cut, my man. I'll invoice you. By the way, the last bit of Remedy news. Did you know they're remaking Max Payne? You might have already since it was announced a little while ago. But did you know they're combining Max Payne 1 and 2 into a single package? I didn't know that until last week when director and Max Payne himself, Sam Lake, spoke about the project with Video Game Chronicle. He described it as a, quote, big undertaking, end quote. And yeah, I believe it. Smushing 2 games into one and trying to do justice to those classics has got to be one hell of a tall order. The project is being published by Rockstar, who now own the Max Payne rights after Remedy sold them back in 2002 for $34 million. No release date for this one yet, but from the sounds of things, it isn't anytime soon. Circling back to physical media for a moment, that recent Xbox leak revealed that Microsoft are abandoning physical media with their next console release, and wouldn't you know it, Best Buy have just revealed that they're exiting the physical media business as well. To be clear, they say it's only for movies and music and that they will still sell games. But Josh Fairhurst of Limited Run Games say he's heard that Best Buy will soon stop selling physical Xbox games. Which, yeah, totally makes sense if Xboxes are no longer going to have disk drives. It's significant because Best Buy are one of the largest physical media retailers in the United States and therefore one of the biggest in the world. If they do exit the market, it would send a clear signal to other retailers and publishers to do the same, and that'd be a real shame. A quick lightning round to finish off. Assassin's Creed Mirage is not only popular with critics, it seems that the fans are enjoying it as well, or at the very least, they're buying it. Ubisoft announced that Mirage is now Ubisoft's biggest ever new-gen launch title, meaning Xbox Series and PS5 consoles. It's a bit of an odd way to slice it, but it's a clear message that Mirage is successful. Hopefully this translates to more of the classic style Assassin's Creed games because while I didn't love Mirage, I really think it showcased just how well a lot of those older elements of the formula held up. Speaking of success stories, it looks as though Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon sold through 2.8 million copies. That's according to one of the Japanese voice actors on the title. Don't know how he got his hands on that intel, but we thank him for sharing it. That's a huge result for what was a very, very niche series to this point, especially in the West. With numbers like that, we should absolutely expect FromSoft to be following up with a sequel. While we're talking victory laps, Game of the Generation contender Vampire Survivors has just surpassed 200,000 positive reviews on Steam, making it very popular. People really love this video game. And why wouldn't they? It's like the best thing ever. By the way, whenever I talk about this game, there's always people in the comments being like, is this a bit? Is this a meme game? That game looks shit. I can't tell if Shillup is joking. Bro, boot up the game, play for 5 minutes, and come back next week and you can tell me if I'm joking. Moving right along, it isn't good news for everyone on the sales front. This week, Paradox wrote down the entire development cost of the recently released Lamplighters League, meaning they're declaring a loss of nearly $30 million for the company. The game's been out since October and has racked up less than 200 reviews on Steam, peaking at just 600 concurrent players. Yes, it is available on Game Pass, but I mean, the publisher themselves are declaring it a flop, so that Game Pass player count seems rather academic at this point. Bit of a shame, hopefully the developer harebrained schemes live to fight another day. The International Olympic Committee are getting into the esports business. At a time when almost every esport is in decline, the IOC say they want to create a dedicated esports Olympic Games. I look forward to the Netflix documentary detailing all the ways that G Fuel gets smuggled into the athletes' village. That is terrible. What the fuck? Oh, I should delete that. I'm not going to delete it. We're going to keep going. If you are planning on picking up Diablo 4 on Steam this week, then don't tell anyone. You get in trouble for saying you like Diablo, and it's just not worth it, trust me. Still, if you are insistent, then good news, Diablo 4 is going to be Steam Deck compatible. It actually runs really well on there, and on the ROG Ally, which is where I played a bunch of it while I was on holiday earlier this year. It's kind of a perfect handheld game, actually, so if you've been waiting to give it a crack, then that Steam Deck tick might be the perfect excuse. Speaking of Diablo, did you guys see that stuff about the Lilith skin in Overwatch? It was kind of the focal point of the seasonal marketing, and it turns out that the only way to get your hands on it was by buying the Ultimate Edition of the Battle Pass for $40 US. Classic Blizzard. Finishing up with some voice actor news, it turns out CD Projekt Red used AI to recreate a Polish voice actor's voice after he had passed away. They did so with the permission of his family after deciding that the best way to honor his memory was to retain his voice for the concluding Cyberpunk DLC. It's a tricky subject, AI, certainly too tricky to unpack in a lightning round, but do expect to hear plenty more of these stories in the future. No AI voice work for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth though, because Square just locked in Matt Mercer as the voice of Vincent. You are legally prohibited from releasing any video game that does not contain Matt Mercer's voice, as evidenced by the fact that this year alone he was in Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate 3. So Square are just looking to remain legally compliant here, and I for one support it. And finally, the new voice of Mario has been revealed. After stepping down from the job, the iconic Charles Martinet will be succeeded by one Kevin Afghani. He hasn't got too many credits to his name, so he's definitely a bit of an unknown. Based on the gameplay we've seen of Mario Wonder so far, it looks like he's crushing it in the role right out of the gate, and it's really nice to see how welcomed he's been by Mario fans the world over. So, what got announced this week? Well, very little actually. One of the quietest weeks for new game announcements or delays I've ever seen. Pretty much the only thing we got was Earth Defense Force 6. It's EDF alright, take a look.
We connect now to our live feed with soldiers on the battlefield. Hello, can you hear me?
I can't wait to start the fight. It's just fighting. Easy. I'm lucky today. The bullets won't hit me. Let's hang out tonight, everyone.
The rest of the trailer continues on like that, just as the previous 5 games have done, but that's why everyone loves them, and you don't mess with a good thing. No release date for this one yet, but it is arriving northern spring next year. So what came out last week? Well, Total War Pharaoh arrived exclusive to PC, and I was not wrong when I mused that there doesn't seem to be a lot of hype for this one, because the game peaked at a concurrent player count of around 5,400 people, which is just a fraction of previous Total War entries. Steam reviews are also most unkind, sitting at a mixed 60%, with many of them pointing to the size, scale, and scope of the game being very limited, a common refrain being that it's akin to the poorly received Total War Troy. Critics were a bit warmer on it, scoring it a strong 78 on OpenCritic. IGN scored it an 8, saying, quote, Total War Pharaoh's interesting battles complement an impressively rich campaign centered on the late Bronze Age collapse, end quote. Contrast that with Video Gamer, who scored it a 4 out of 10 and said, quote, it squanders its potential with meager gameplay, story, soundtrack, and performance, and fails to add anything of note to the Total War series or leave an impression on its identity, end quote. Maybe worth replaying an older campaign than shelling out $60 for this new one. Biggest release of the week was Lords of the Fallen. Sadly, I wasn't able to review that one as I was busy with both Spider-Man and something else I'm not allowed to talk about yet. Review for that one coming soon, but luckily, Austin was able to pick up the slack. He sort of liked it. Sort of not. I think it's fair to say that he wanted to like it more than he actually did, as the gorgeous visuals, art design, and the novel dual world mechanic really pull you in. The middling combat, frustrating boss design, and some obtuse game mechanics really spit you back out. It's by no means terrible, but it's far from the peak of what this subgenre has to offer, paling in comparison to anything that FromSoft have produced, or even the recent Lies of P. If you'd like to see that full review from Austin, I'll leave a link below the like button. He wasn't the only one with a fairly mixed take, by the way. The game is sitting at a strong 75 on OpenCritic, but that number hides just how far the review pendulum is swinging on this one. At the top end, you've got stuff like GameSpew, who scored it a 9 out of 10, saying, quote, Hexworks has created something that genuinely feels like a successor to Dark Souls, leveraging the power of next-gen to push the genre forward, end quote. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got the Six Axes, who scored it a 4 out of 10, saying, quote, I desperately wanted to like Lords of the Fallen, but it's the first game all year that's actively annoyed me. I like the Soul genre more than any other. This game took all of the lessons it could have learned since the original Lords of the Fallen and either forgot them entirely or just misunderstood them so grievously that you'd assumed it skipped a class, end quote. Maybe one to pick up on sale eventually, but with a month as stacked as this, Lords of the Fallen looks to be one to keep on the back burner. Wizard with a Gun arrived last week. It's a unique looking survival game that I thought was only headed to PC and Switch, but it turns out it's also headed to PS5 and Xbox. Thank you to Devolver for correcting me on that one. Reviews for this one dropped overnight, and already on Steam it's sitting at a very positive 90%, which is a great result. The critics are a little cooler on it, scoring at a fair 74 on OpenCritic. IGN scored this one a 6, saying, quote, Wizard with a Gun is an entertaining co-op action game, but balance issues and an unsatisfying ending leave it feeling unfinished and in need of updates, end quote. And finally, 1 week before we get a brand spanking new 2D Mario game, we got a brand spanking new 2D Sonic game. Sonic Superstars is an all-new, all-original Sonic game that aims to shove the speedy blue furball into the future, featuring stuff like 3D stylized visuals, 4-player co-op, 8-player PvP modes, and a whole cast of playable characters to choose from. No Steam reviews at the time of writing, but critics seem pretty happy with it overall, with the title sitting at a strong 76 on OpenCritic, with most of the reviews sitting at around that 7 or 8 mark. Metro Game Central summed it up well when they said, quote, "It's no Sonic Mania, but this is still one of the better attempts to create a modern-day 2D Sonic the Hedgehog with impressive visuals but boring boss battles," end quote. So that's Team Blue shooting their shot. Can the little Italian plumber one-up him, so to speak? We'll find out later this week. Speaking of which, what is coming out this week? Fucking everything, let me tell you. This is like the last great week of the year, a week so stacked with releases that we will not see its like again until, I don't know, October of next year probably. So buckle up, we have a lot to get through. Kicking things off is Hellboy: Web of Weird. I'm really surprised that I haven't seen more hype behind this one because it's an original story from Hellboy creator Mike Mignola, and it has this sick looking art style, and it's a roguelike brawler with cool looking gameplay. Despite that, you'd be forgiven for not knowing this exists. Well, it does, and it arrives on all platforms today. Endless Dungeon is one you may want to check out if you're looking for some co-op fun. It's set in the Endless universe and sees teams of up to 3 square off against monsters and aliens in thick roguelike twin-stick shooter and tower defense style action. This one arrives on all platforms on the 19th. Galactic Civilizations 4 has been in early access since April of this year, and on the 19th, it'll hit 1.0. They're not just giving it a new version number, they're also giving it a new suffix, Supernova. It's exclusive to PC, as pretty much all grand strategy titles are, and the Steam reviews are looking pretty solid at this point, so this one might be worth keeping an eye on depending on how the launch day reviews land. Gargoyles Remastered is a refresh of the classic 2D platformer based on the iconic Disney cartoon. This one is doing that thing where you can press a button and toggle between the old and the new art style. Only I think the old pixel art looks a lot better, and I know I'm not alone in that. This one arrives on all platforms on the 19th. Here's something I'm actually really pumped about, but I don't have time for right now. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. So I played the first one, and it is absolutely fantastic. One of the best arcade races I've played in a long time, with superb handling, great track design, car models, track build features, and so much more. Just a great time, and I ended up dumping a bunch of hours into it where I really only expected to play like 15 minutes. The sequel is more Hot Wheels. It's more vehicle types, the ability to jump or sideswipe whenever you like, a whole sort of unlock system for each car, new track building options, and tons more. I played a little bit of it back at the Summer Games Fest in June, and I loved it. If you've already played the first one, then this one might not be an essential purchase, as there's a lot of shared DNA here. But if you skip that one, then yeah, grab this so long as the reviews don't raise any red flags. I promise you will have a surprisingly excellent time with this. It hits all platforms on the 19th. Jackbox Party Pack 10 is releasing on all platforms on the 19th. There's 10 of them now, so this will be the 10th one that I haven't played. I think you have to have friends to play these games, so I don't really qualify. Forgive Me Father 2 arrives in early access on the 19th, exclusive to PC for now. Not gonna lie, pretty surprised to see this one, given that the first one only came out in April of last year. Doesn't feel like much time between drinks. Still, the first game was superb, a gory first-person shooter with a comic book art style and a sacrilegious setting. I'll let this one bake until it's ready, but I definitely plan to pick it up when it hits 1.0. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, the day we have all been waiting for, October 20th. For it is on this glorious day that we get not one, but 2 first-party bangers, both of them starring characters from New York City, wearing red suits. And they both jump a lot. Wait a second, did anyone ask Shigeru Miyamoto if he based Mario on Spider-Man? Someone asked him that in an interview, see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Spider-Man 2 arrives exclusive to the PS5 on the 20th. It will almost certainly arrive on PC sometime late next year if Sony's general release cadence holds. A testament to Sony's confidence, the review embargo expired for this a few days ago, so that's when my review went up, link below the like button. I really enjoyed this, I really did. I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first game, as I do think some of the story beats didn't land for me in quite the same way, and the open world stuff felt a little familiar, but none of that changes the fact that this is an absolutely superb game. Such an incredible spectacle, so well made, each of its voice actors delivering such brilliant performances, especially Yuri Lowenthal as symbiote Spider-Man. Insomniac continue to cement themselves as the jewel in Sony's first-party crown, and what they've done here is absolutely in keeping with the high-quality bar they always manage to set. Speaking of high bars, Mario. The bar doesn't get much higher than that now, does it? But Nintendo will yet again try to clear it on October 20th when they release Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the first 2D Mario in a hot minute, and certainly Mario's swan song on the Nintendo Switch. This is looking absurdly good. Clips are spilling out all over the internet, and each one looks more impressive than the last, with the art style, music, and sheer creativity on display all looking fantastic. Nintendo, man, they do not mess around when it comes to their flagship franchises. except for Star Fox on the Wii U, but we don't talk about that one. Believe it or not, the month is not done. City Skyline arrives on the 24th of October, exclusive to PC for now, since the console port's got a last-minute delay to, I don't know, maybe as late as May of next year. That's pretty concerning. Also a little concerning is the recommended hardware for this one, an RTX 3080 to play at 1080p. My dudes, come on now, is this a city builder game or an AutoCAD program? I'm actually quite interested in this one, given how much people enjoyed the first one, but I'm really going to be looking to see how those reviews land before jumping in. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 arrives on all platforms on the 24th. This one contains Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, as well as the original 16-bit games and a boatload of fan service style extras. Think, your DVD extras, but for video games, and you're halfway there. It's the golden years of Metal Gear, before things started getting a little unwieldy with 4 and a little unfinished with 5. If you've never experienced these games before, I promise you they hold up well because they are each a masterpiece. Less so too, but we don't like to make us feel left out. Nearly there, 2 more to go. Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is a survival crafting game set in the mines of Moria. It absolutely makes sense, and it's a surprise that no one has done this before, except there is a game called Return to Nagrin, which is basically exactly this, but without the Lord of the Rings license. That one is still in development though, so if you want to start working out that pickaxe arm, then you can grab Lord of the Rings Return to Moria on the 20th, exclusive to the Epic Game Store. So yeah, there you go. And finally, I lied when I said that October 20th was the biggest day, because on October 24th, we get a new Just Dance. That is right. It's Just Dance 55 or something. I don't know. It's got the BTS, it's got the Miley Ray Cyrus, it's got the Whitney Houston, but it ain't got no Taylor Swift. So I ask you, what is the point of this video game if it ain't got no Tay-Tay? I'm outraged. I'm gonna go watch the Eras Tour movie again to calm down. I'll see you later. Bye. All right, I'm back. So hey, put this on your radar. Right, so a few years back, a small indie team by the name of Event Horizon released a game called Tower of Time. It didn't do big numbers, but it got noticed. Go and look up reviews for this one, and you'll see that people who play CRPGs, myself included, really like this one for its excellent, accessible spin on the old-school, real-time with pause CRPG combat formula. Terrific title, one I still recommend checking out if you haven't yet done so. A few years with their heads down, and Event Horizon are now resurfacing with this, Dark Envoy. It's another CRPG, only this time in a more Arcanum, Magipunk-inspired setting. It retains the real-time with pause combat framework, but now has much deeper RPG systems, more classes, customization, and loot than before. It's also got online co-op, which is a big step up for the studio, and a nice addition given how much people love playing co-op in any CRPG that will allow it, which sadly isn't many. Bottom line, I have a lot of faith in this team. They've been working on this one for a long time and it looks great, so I have high hopes. Best of all, you won't have to wait long because it's out next week on the 25th of October, exclusive to Steam for now. If you're keen, I profiled it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and only a few quick shouts for the week. Epic is here, and not for nothing, but they just reiterated that despite the fact that they are bleeding cash, they still plan to continue giving away free games, saying that the program is one of their best recruitment tools into the Epic Games Store. So I guess the good times keep rolling for us, not so much for Epic. Either way, right now you can grab Sea of Thieves-esque blazing sails, as well as the first-person puzzler Cube Ultimate Bundle. Later this week, those will disappear, replaced by Eternal Threads, another first-person puzzler, though this one is more of a detective game, as well as survival horror cult classic The Evil Within. It wasn't until the sequel that this series really hit its stride, but it's absolutely worth checking out, especially at this price tag. Only other shout is for the monthly Game Pass refresh. Key callouts here include Headbangers, which is a fun-looking rhythm-based party game, Jusant, which is a lovely-looking climbing game from Don't Nod. That'll actually be a day one release on Game Pass when it releases at the end of the month, as well as City Skylines 2, PC exclusive as we mentioned earlier. By the way, while I've been writing this script, the developers have just issued a statement basically warning people about PC performance, saying that they haven't hit the target they were aiming for, and yet the game is still getting released. Game Pass definitely sounds like the right way to check this one out, especially when the developers themselves are warning you that it is not ready for launch. For our feel-good story for the week, I think it's time we gave Starfield a bit of a break. After all, it's had a rough couple of weeks, what with Steam reviews dropping to a mixed 65% and now those watches breaking. Luckily, there is one group of people who are never going to give Bethesda up, never going to let them down, and that group of people are the modders. There have already been hundreds, nay thousands of impressive Starfield mods already out in the wild. Hell, in week 1 we showcased one of the best, a flashlight that shines Phil Spencer's handsome face. Love that. Well, this mod might just top that. Meet the Mando Starfield DeLorean, and jokes aside, this actually looks pretty fucking cool. It's got a beautifully recreated Mando, stormtroopers, it's got Grogu, though he is looking a little stiff. Grogu aside, I think this mod really sells it, and looking at it, you get a sense of what a big budget Mandalorian game might be like. Most importantly, it's got an accurate 2-scale recreation of Mando's iconic ship, the Razor Crest. Take a look. Isn't she beautiful? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Starfield will outlive us all. Guys, that is the end of the show. We've got some big content coming up on the channel in the next few days. A review from yours truly. I can't say what it is yet, but it is on the way. The other thing is the Friends Per Second podcast. This week, we're actually joined by Brian Intihar, game director for Spider-Man 2. We talk about what it was like to suit up for the second outing, the decision to go with Venom and Kraven as the game's big bads, as well as what we might expect from Insomniac and Spider-Man going forward. If you'd like to check that out, that episode will go live over the weekend. And tell you what, look, just to make things easy, why don't you just hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, and you'll know the minute that episode is live. By the way, if you haven't hit the like button on the video yet, I'd love it if you could do that, as that always helps us out in a big way. Thank you as always for stopping by, and a big thank you to this week's sponsor, GeForce Now, powered by Cloud GG. Australians, it feels like only yesterday that we got access to cloud gaming. Before then, we looked on jealously as other nations enjoyed the convenience of this next-gen tech. But thanks to GeForce Now powered by Cloud GG, we got to experience it for ourselves, and it was great. But now it's even better in a whole bunch of ways that take cloud gaming to the next level and make it a very, very viable alternative to expensive hardware. Let's rewind though. What is GeForce Now powered by Cloud GG? Well, it's a powerful gaming platform that lets you play hundreds of games through the power and magic of the cloud, meaning you can play those games on your TV, your old, outdated PC, your tablets, and even your Apple devices. This is possible because GeForce Now does all the graphical processing in the cloud and just beams you an image, similar to something like Netflix. So if you have an internet connection at 15 megabits per second or higher, you can start playing games through the cloud on almost any device through either a dedicated app or through a browser like Apple Safari. That's been available for a while now and people have loved it, but this month, Cloud GG made a massive upgrade to their infrastructure, one that really transforms this entire cloud gaming experience. Their new Ultra Tier membership is the first time you'll be able to experience RTX 3080 servers. This means that you can get up to 4K 60 FPS or 1440p at 120 FPS. That 120 FPS number is significant because many modern TVs support 120 FPS, so you can play Cyberpunk on your TV at 120 FPS if you want to, without needing to spend hundreds of dollars on a console or thousands of dollars on a high-end PC. That membership tier is also the first to support ultra-wide resolutions, and as someone who rocks an ultra-wide monitor myself, I can tell you that is a very worthwhile addition. That's not all though. Recently, GeForce Now signed a partnership with Xbox, which puts Game Pass on GeForce Now, powered by Cloud GG. That means that 25 new Game Pass games immediately joined the GeForce Now service, including the brand spanking new Forza Motorsport. New games are added to the service every single week. Just recently, it got Star Trek Infinite, Lords of the Fallen, Narita Boy, Seafood, The Surge, and dozens more, all in a single week. Best of all, you don't have to buy these games twice. These games are pulled from your existing Steam, Epic, or Ubisoft libraries, meaning you can continue to buy games wherever you please, but you play them through the convenience and power of GeForce Now. There is a free trial available all the time, allowing you to test this for yourself, and for less than the price of a cup of coffee, you can get a full month of the basic tier membership, giving you the chance to stream games on the fly with ease. If you find yourself loving it and using it often, you may want to check out that Ultra tier, giving you next-gen features like ray tracing, 4K 60 FPS, and ultra-wide. PC gaming is, I think, the best way to go about it, but the cost of entry is intimidating, and you have to worry about upgrading your hardware and troubleshooting issues, etc. If you want to get into PC gaming without any of that cost or hassle, then GeForce Now is absolutely the way to do it, allowing you to play hundreds of PC games with ease. You can try for free by clicking the link below. Thanks GeForce Now, powered by Cloud GG, for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.